Alright, so there seems to be some confusion about the Behringer X Touch controlling X32 and specifically the X32 rack. It's pretty simple. All you really have to do is just plug the X Touch into the USB of your computer. And that's actually the big debate is currently the X32s only recognize Mackie Control Universal, MCU or MC for short, and that is a protocol that controls software which can control hardware. So not until Behringer releases the X Control protocol for the X32 will it be mapped to the X Control patch in the X Touch surface here. So for now it works perfectly, just like any controller has always worked with X32 when it's in Mackie Control or MC mode. So the first thing you're going to do here is turn your unit off, and we're going to hold down the select button on channel 1 while we turn it on, and that's where you get to decide what mode this is in. For controlling the XR, it's going to be in the X Control setting and typically USB. But for this, it's going to be Mackie Control, MC, and USB. Once you've got Mackie Control and USB selected, you can turn this off. Now you can come over here and actually just click Enable. And once you do that, you'll notice that it's completely in sync. And I've been testing this for 2 days and it works perfect. You will have to learn the Mackie Control shortcuts, the protocol where things are mapped. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over everything that's mapped, but you'll quickly see that I've got complete control over all my faders, my master. I can go through and flip through my buses 8 at a time. One thing I did notice that's different about the way this protocol is working on X32 versus XR is the channel button. It literally doesn't change what you're shifting. It just goes down to 2. This is now 3, so it's shifting everything down physically 1 fader instead of actually taking my select and going 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. A little different there. We'll also notice that these buttons here in the zoom navigation button area is cycling through different tabs on the currently selected window. So if I go to Effects, it'll cycle through all the tabs. That's a pretty cool shortcut. The other thing that this does as well is it will actually bring up your effects 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when we go to the 4 effects on the XR, the screen is not following. So it's a good news that that can happen, and I'm sure XR will be updated to have the screen follow our effects as we go through all 8 of those, or in the XR case, all 4 of those. There are other shortcuts we can go through. This right here is the same thing as the 4 assign buttons in your effects section. So you can see effects 1 mute, effects 2 mute. You'll notice this is always blinking. That is your delay time. So that's just like the console. And we can tap tempo that. And effects 4 off and on, mute. So a lot of shortcuts. You can engage, pan and surround. EQ, the EQ works great. Everyone needs to be on 2.5 of the edit application. That actually upgraded Mackie Control protocol, GUI interface, redraws, and some other things that were going on, making it very, very sluggish. So with 2.5 of the edit software, it's extremely fast and works just like you'd expect. Here's the off on. So let's go back to my kick channel, select it. I'm going to go to EQ. I can turn my EQ off and on. It looks like it's not following, so I'll come back over here and get into EQ. And I can turn the EQ off and on up here. I can change the position of my low cut, number 1 here. And all the way up to the high shelf. Change its position. On the output, if you want to bank over to our outputs and select a bus and then go over to EQ. We've got all 6 bands of EQ here. And up here we have shortcuts getting us to our home window, meters, routing, setup, And once we're in setup, we remember that we can go through and cycle through each page or each tab here. And also, here's our 6 mute groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see that. So in the effects page, we can again go through the tabs, 8 tabs. If your effects has more than 2 pages of parameters, I've noticed the scroll wheel will go back and forth between parameters page 1 and 2 there on the bottom. So it's another little shortcut. So again, I won't spend too much time with this, but everything works just like it should, and it works perfectly. And X-Touch works perfectly with X32. You do have to run USB into a control computer because this is controlling the software, and of course the software controls the hardware. Eventually, I would say very soon, when the X32 firmware is upgraded, it will allow this to directly control X32 rack or any other X32. Alright, so that was it. Just a quick overview to show you that this is working perfectly with X32. If you have any questions, let us know on our Facebook page at Musicians Pro, or check out our Behringer forum on Facebook.